welcome back to the Confidence Show. In this episode, we are welcoming back Daire Paddy to the pod. If you missed the last episode with her, the Confidence to Unfollow advice, go back and listen to it because it was awesome. If you are new or you haven't listened to that episode yet, as a reminder, Daire is a business coach known for combining the energetic and the strategic to help you design a business and life that feels fun and pays generously. She's the host of the Your Biz Your Rules podcast, and her and I are also combining forces to run the Self First Retreat in January 2023, which you can find out more about in the show notes. Welcome back, Daire. Hello.
Every time I hear you mention our retreat, I just get giddy.
I know, me too. It's so exciting. And by the time this episode goes out as well, we will have like details finalized because this is going out, I think, in October. So we'll actually have the details finalized, whereas now we're still like bringing everything together and putting together the proper plan. So very, very exciting times.
It's going to be amazing.
It is. It is. I can't wait. Okay, so in our last interview, we talked a lot about unfollowing and unlearning the coaching advice that doesn't suit us. And this time we're diving into something completely different. So we're talking about all things spiritual, witchy, and a bit woo. And I'm very excited about this because I feel like I'm still quite new to the kind of spiritual side of things. So I use crystals, I meditate, I do like new and full moon rituals sometimes, but that's probably about as like spiritual, I suppose, as I get at the moment. So for our listeners, I would really love to start by first discussing what you would mean by spirituality and the term witchy.
Okay, so the way that I see these things, I think, judging by how you just described it, is slightly different to the way you see these things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, being witchy is very much about being in sync with nature. Like that's what it means in its essence.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of allowing the intelligence of nature to guide the way we do things and using nature to shift things and manifest things and release things.
Oh, I love that definition. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. I suppose like when you see like woo thing, I mean, I don't know whether woo is a term that you use. I know that people have like
I say woo all the time.
Oh, okay. Some people are like so against it. Some people love it. I use it because I don't have a problem with it. But when I imagine like the woo kind of spiritual things, I do imagine like using crystals or doing meditations or that kind of stuff. But the way that you just described the whole idea of being witchy is very different, but a really lovely, like a lovely way. Like I really felt good when you were talking about the whole idea of like connecting nature and using nature to kind of manifest what you want. And it's very different as well, I suppose, to the typical or like traditional thoughts of being a witch and like casting spells and creating potions and that kind of stuff. Although I'm sure there are some aspects of that in it as well.
Well, really, like that is still all about using nature. So if you think meditating with crystals, a crystal is a rock that is found in nature.
Yeah, so
if
true.
you think about people like making lotions and potions and spells, they use like herbs and crystals and fire, all of which are very much natural items. You think about practices like breath work, using the breath part of nature. You think about like grounding and like actually like, you know, when people put their feet in the grass or they hug a tree, nature, like it's all very much about using elements of nature to change the way you feel, because I'm a big believer that when you change something within, you change something without. And that's really the essence of what magic means. If you look up the definition of magic, it's as within, so without, as above, so below. So it's all about creating a sense of balance. And so when you, and it's this principle, and like we learn about this in like year 7 science, it's every action has a reaction. And so if that action that you're taking is an internal action, it still has a reaction somewhere, whether that is also internal, whether that is external. And that's really what magic and spirituality and witchiness is. And obviously there are deeper elements to it that people will like go to when they think of spirituality. So they'll think of things like different deities, so gods and goddesses, and like prayers and like rules and commandments and all of those things. And you know, different people have different beliefs on those things, but that is kind of like the dressing. It's not the core of what it is.
Love that. I've never really looked at it in that way before. I don't know. I think spirituality and that whole thing is kind of, I feel like I put it on a bit of a pedestal and see it as this, probably the way that it's portrayed on social media, of this like really, I don't know, glamorous, like all these like rituals and the incense and the saging and all this stuff. Like it's a real like glamorous thing that I guess I feel like is not like, is like above me, or is like not fully available to me yet, because I haven't earned it, or I haven't learned enough about it, or I don't know. Whereas everything that you've described, I'm like, I do things like that all the time anyway. Like walking barefoot is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. And there'll be things like working in line with the seasons. So doing things differently in different seasons, or doing things differently at different times of your menstrual cycle, like that is all being in tune with nature. And so there was this book written in the 80s that is quite a well-respected like guide to witchcraft or something like that. But inside of it, it has what are known as the 13 goals of the witch, which are essentially like the commandments of being a witch. And I thought I would share those with you so you can see that it's actually stuff that we do anyway.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have that label of like witch or spiritual or priestess or whatever, I can guarantee that you're still doing these things. So the 13 goals of a witch are: know yourself, know your craft, learn and grow, apply knowledge with wisdom, achieve balance, keep your words in good order, keep your thoughts in good order, celebrate life, attune with the cycles of the air, breathe and eat correctly, exercise the body, meditate, and honor your goddess and god, like whatever it is that you believe in.
Oh my God, they're so simple. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, aside from the whole God thing, I think I do all of those. I don't really subscribe to like a traditional like religion. Like I believe that there's a higher power, but not in the religious.
Usually when I like, if I ever teach this, then I usually switch that one out for honor your belief system.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the word like goddess and god, they mean very different things to very different people. So, but if you look at those goals, they're kind of like, well, yeah, I would want to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So who says that you're like, you're not woo enough or not spiritual enough or too new? Because these are all things that you do.
Yeah, all the time. And I always feel so much better in myself when I'm making the conscious effort to connect with myself regularly.
And that's really what rituals and practices are. They're a time of conscious effort.
I love a ritual. I love a ritual or some kind of like spiritual routine. I love to read about. I don't always follow them exactly because I have this like fear of like burning stuff. Not fear, but I'm always like, oh God, if I like burn some paper, then I'm definitely going to set the place on fire. So I don't tend to do things that involve burning. But yeah, I love to follow some kind of ritual, as you say. So what kind of things, like how do you incorporate these types of rituals, or how do you incorporate spirituality into your daily life, in both your personal life and in your business life?
That's a great question. So there are lots of different ways that I do this. So one of the really like basic ones that I have, so I'm in my office right now, is I have little altar spaces that I use for different things. And whether you like believe in like the magical side of it or not, what these little spaces do is they create physical anchors for the things that you want. So for example, on the other side of the room right now, I've got my relationship altar. So on there, I have like different items that remind me of the kind of relationship that I really want to have. And then like nothing fancy. So I've got like little heart-shaped dishes, and I've got plants because they're like these big thriving green fertile plants that just make me think of like health and vitality and growth, which is something that I want to bring into my relationship. I've also got like a little image on there. I've got a candle on there. I've got some essential oils that are for like passion and things like that. And every time I look over there, I just get that little feeling of like, it's my love altar. Like it just gives me that little tingle.
Oh, that's so
And
cute.
whether it's casting a love spell or not is by the by. The point is, every time I look over there, I'm reminded my relationship is a priority for me. And when that is reinforced, I behave in accordance with that.
That's so cool. I think I always think of altars as like, I don't know, like this, I don't know, I suppose weird thing that people do to, I don't know, attract gods, or I've never really thought about it in that much detail, but it sounds like such a lovely thing to, now I'm like, I want to go and create an altar for me.
Yeah.
I want
So people do have different types of altars. So you do have altars for like gods, goddesses, saints, ancestors, things like that. But you can also have altars that are dedicated to particular themes or particular seasons. So people will do like seasonal altars or ones that are connected to certain celebrations. So like an Easter altar, Christmas altar, that kind of thing. I personally prefer to use them as a way to like anchor in things I want to manifest or the things that I want to sustain. So you've got my relationship one, I've got a business one, and I've got a money one. And basically any flat surface in my house is now fair game. We've got another altar going on. And they're just little places around my home that feel intentional. And it doesn't have to, like we don't have to have candles burning, we don't have to have religious iconography. It's not about that. It's about a collection of items that symbolize something to me.
Yeah, I like that. And then it must make your home feel like such a loving place and like such a special place when you can look in those areas, and as you say, like you get those feelings and you're reminded of those things that you're working towards.
Yeah, and it makes your space feel very intentional and like it's really supporting your goals. Because I think it's very, very easy to sort of decide that we want something, and we might put it on a vision board, we might put it in our planner, like we'll have it somewhere, but it's not everywhere we look.
Yeah.
And
So
when you have these little physical spots around the place, you're just reminded constantly, and you tap back into the like physical sensations of having and working towards having that thing.
yeah, I feel like my spaces at the moment are very like chaotic and not very organized and are a bit messy, whereas I'm trying to bring like more peace into my life and more balance, and my environment is definitely not reflecting that at the moment. So I like the whole idea of being able to take responsibility for that and saying, do you know what, I can actually do something to, as you say, like be intentional with the space that I'm creating and help it become more towards what I actually like, the way that I want to live or what I'm trying to achieve in my life. I really like that.
And your altar could be in a shoebox, it could be on a tray that you just tuck under your bed, and you just like get it out and have it on display during the day, and then at night it just goes away, or when people come home it just goes away.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, I've got all the ideas now. All the ideas. I love it. Um, how is kind of combining these like spiritual and energetic practices with the strategic work? How has that helped you in your business?
Here's the thing about strategy: it is great, but it only goes so deep.
Mhm.
So strategy very much deals in the 3D world. It's very much about action and doing things and picking up momentum, which is great and it's important, but it's not the full picture. It's that tip of the iceberg. It's not all of the stuff underneath the water. And when you pair the energetic work, spiritual work, the magical work, whatever word you want to use there, with the strategic, then you are looking at the whole person, the whole situation, and you have the tools then to work on whatever it is that's coming up. Because sometimes, legitimately, the only obstacle that people have are like the surface level tactics, like they just don't know what steps to take. But sometimes it's a lot deeper than that. Sometimes it is, you know, a deep, dark, limiting belief that they can't let go of. Sometimes it's, you know, energetic imprints that they've been picking up from family members. So, like, there are so many things that it could be that are not on the surface. And so when you are equipped to deal with both parts of a person, the transformation not only is greater, but it's also more easily sustained.
Yeah, I love that. I love your explanation of that. And I know that you have a huge selection of different mindset and energetic modalities that you've been trained in. Can you talk a little bit about what made you want to learn so many different tools and techniques, and tell us a little bit about some of your favorite ones for overcoming those deeper, like, energetic blocks that we have within us?
Yeah, so essentially, like my way of going about life is, if I experience something and it works wonders on me, I'm like, yeah, I want to learn how to do that because I want other people to experience this. I want everyone to experience this. And that is about the thought that goes into it. So if I've tried something and loved it, it's like, yeah, learning how to do that. And over the years, I've been certified in so many different things. Like, there's like life and success coaching, which is still, I would say, more of the strategic side of things and like sort of the surface level mindset work. And then we have things like NLP, which is incredibly powerful. Hypnotherapy, again, very powerful. Time techniques, which is amazing for not just getting rid of limiting emotions and decisions that you've made at some point throughout your life, but if you have anything generational or in a past life that you're not even fully consciously aware of, it's a great tool for working on that. EFT, so that's tapping, emotional freedom techniques, tool we know and love, Rebecca. I know both of
I
us
love
use
it. It's
that.
one of my faves.
Yeah, that is something that I adore. What else? I've done an Akashic Records certification, which again is like very much past life stuff.
Wow.
I have done a breathwork certification, which is like straight up magic when you've got stuff like, if you need to release something and you're not fully aware of what it is, but you just know there's something weighing you down, you know there's something holding you back, breathwork can be amazing. I mean, it's amazing if you've got a solid intention too, but my point is, you don't always have to know what it is that is going on for you to let it go.
Absolutely. I feel like breath work has probably been the most powerful tool that I've ever used, specifically when I was going through my breakup. Like, I did breath work every week for a year, minus like 2 weeks. So for like 50 weeks out of the year, I did a breath work class, and it helped shift so much. And it wasn't always pleasant at all. Like, I shed so many tears and it would like knock me out the next day. But there's something about that is just so incredibly powerful from that like energetic point of view, and it just makes you feel so good after, not like straight afterwards always, but I feel like I definitely notice shifts with that. So breathwork, EFT and hypnosis are three of my like three of the biggest tools that have helped me change the most.
Yeah, they're amazing.
I love that you're trained in all these, because you can do these when we do our retreat.
I know.
Obviously
We'll have to decide which ones to bring out because there's so many.
yeah, I feel like EFT has to. I feel like that's a good one, because it's not like, breath work can be so intense. We don't want people to like do a breathwork class and be like, I don't want to talk to anyone for the next 24 hours.
Or I don't know, maybe I would say we do breath work on the first night.
Oh yeah, it's like an intentional. like
Yeah.
start like clear
And then because you kind of like scraping back the layers, and then from that first morning, then we'll be like, right, let's dig in here.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited. Are there any tools in particular that you would turn to in a specific scenario? So you've obviously got loads of different tools that you use, loads of different ones that you use with your clients, and I'm sure you're quite intuitive with what tools you use. But are there any where you're having going through something specific, like for example, if you're struggling to make money or if you're lacking confidence in yourself, what tools would be your like first go-to from like an energetic or spiritual perspective?
Are we talking like things for me or things I would do for clients?
Things for you first and then things for clients.
So usually because I'm the kind of person, like I want stuff to switch quickly. Like I am not a patient person.
Me
I'm
neither.
just not. I know this about myself. So I want something quick that's going to work for me. And so one of my go-tos is always tapping. And I do some very, let's say, enthusiastic tapping when I'm doing it alone. So I will do it while I'm walking around. So I will like march around the house or down the trail that's across the road from me and like stomp and tap and shout what I'm tapping. Like I would like, so I'm getting my body physically moving and like getting really loud with it and like really letting a lot of stuff go, because it's powerful even when you're doing like little fairy taps and whispering, but when you like really like put all of that tense energy into it, it's even more of a release. So that's one thing that I do. That's particularly when if I've come across something that has bothered me. So, you know, sometimes if you see a social media post and it just pushes a button for you and sends you on a spiral, or maybe you wake up in a little bit of a funk and you just notice you're feeling like really like stressed about something, like those are the situations where I would do my angry tapping. If it's something else, so if it's if it's money related, I also have some audios that I would listen to. So I've actually I know we talked about this in our last interview, but I'm a big fan of like doing my own programs and going back through my own courses. And I have this program that I put together a while back called Unapologetic Wealth. That's a combination of tapping scripts and hypnosis audios. So, and it's all about the money stuff. So when I have money dramas come up, I will just go in, do one of those scripts or listen to one of those audios, and that usually resets me pretty quickly. And it's nice because, you know, it's already there. I don't have to make something new.
Yeah.
I can just draw on that. And then if it's something else, if it's not money related, then breath work is often the first thing that I will try. It doesn't always work for everything. So if it is something that is a really solid pattern, or you know, you do it on a loop and you can see it in yourself, and you for some reason you're not just wanting to let it go, then usually what I will do is I'll get on a call with a friend of mine who did the certifications or some of the certifications with me, and we'll use time techniques on that, because time techniques is an amazing one for, you know, if you ever have something, like I said, where you feel like you're in a loop of just repeating this behavior again and again, and you don't know, like when did you decide that that was just how you're going to be? When did you decide that that was the way you're going to handle things? And you just can't answer that question. Time techniques is great for dealing with anything like that.
What kind of are time techniques? Because it's not something that I've heard as much about. Like I obviously do the breath work, do hypnosis, do EFT, but I haven't really heard much about time techniques. So what are they?
So time techniques is built around the principle that your life is a timeline. So obviously in one direction there's your future, in one direction is your past, and then beyond your past there is also your generational past. So that is, you know, the lives of your parents, grandparents, etc. And there is your like past life past. So it's the principle that you were incarnated at another time in another body in another lifetime. and it's all part of like one long timeline basically. And so through time techniques, you travel along this timeline and go to the root cause of whatever it is that has been troubling you, whether that is an emotion, whether that is a habit, whether that is a belief, whether it's a decision that you keep making, anything like that. You can go back to the first time that you decided that was how you were going to handle things, or that you decided that's who you were going to be, and you do some work there to let it go.
Wow.
And then what you do as you travel back towards the present over your timeline is you can see your life sort of shifting before your eyes and see what it would be like if you'd never have made that decision.
Wow.
And then you just come back to now and feel different, feel like it's gone, like, and you're almost like, I don't even remember a time when I would do that. Like, that's just not me anymore.
That's so cool. So do you get that reaction the first time you do it, or do you have to do it over and over again? You get it straight away?
Yeah, straight away.
Gosh, that's so cool. I feel like, why haven't I heard about this before? I think I've heard you talk about it, but I've not heard about like the actual process before.
Yeah, it's not one that I see a lot of people talking about, and I think maybe it's because it's not quite so scalable in a way that EFT and hypnotherapy are, because obviously with both of those tools and with breathwork as well, you can create like one event, you can create one tapping script, you can create one hypnosis audio, and it is going to be of real benefit to whoever it is listening to it. Yeah. But with time techniques, while yes, like you can sometimes create audios that will work for a group of people, really for it to be most effective, you want to be working one-on-one with people, because you want to be working with their specific struggle, their specific belief in their words, and you want to be able to interact with them back and forth, because you are like asking them questions about what they see and like digging in and supporting them there. So it just doesn't have the same like scalability as a technique.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I don't see so many people talking about it publicly. Like, you don't see people doing YouTube videos with time techniques, really. It's more of a one-on-one practice.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. It's so cool that I suppose in terms of like scalability, it'd just be a case of like getting more experience and increasing your prices, and like in terms of like scaling that way. But then yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I meant more in terms of like being able to share it publicly, like in a group setting, which like, because a lot of these techniques are done in that kind of way. So like, for example, on my YouTube channel, I do a weekly tapping script. You wouldn't be able to really do just like a generic time techniques audio for people to listen to. It just doesn't quite land in the same way.
No, that's cool though. So what kind of, when your clients come to you, is there like a specific modality that you go to first, or do you just kind of assess it on what is going on with them?
So this has taken a little bit of trial and error. Back when I first started getting certified in these things, I would try and sell sessions that were focused on particular techniques. And what I noticed is that there are some things that people immediately think like, oh yeah, I would want to do that. Like, that sounds fun. And there are some things that people think like, the floodgates would be too much. I can't cope with that.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what I rapidly started doing was not being descriptive about the techniques that we would be doing, instead just like talking about what would be possible from the sessions or from the package. And so what I do now is I work very intuitively and figure out what is going on for people, because the practices that I would choose to work on with people would be very different, say if they were feeling conflicted about two options versus like feeling panicked about money versus repeating a cycle that they've acknowledged and seen themselves do time and time again. Like, those three instances would require very different techniques, very different approaches. And so yeah, I like to go intuitive now.
Nice. I think that's such a nice way to work though, isn't it? Like, I know before, like when I've done coaching training and they've had like the layout for how the session should go, or you should ask questions in this order, or you should do things in this way, like it just doesn't always work like that. I think you need to be able to be flexible and be open to what the clients bring into the session, so that you can just work with them and not try and mold the client into fitting into a certain, or like mold the client's problems into fitting into a certain way, so that you can just do the things that you like to do.
Yeah, and I think that it's not just about the client's problem, but sometimes people come to us in like different states and like struggling with different things. So if somebody is like really on edge and their nervous system is like really activated and they're like really dysregulated, I would want to do something to like ground them physically. So I would choose something like breath work or tapping, because that involves sort of being present in your body and like thinking about your breath and like touching yourself and like sort of bringing yourself back down physically. Whereas if people are feeling like really like heavy and lethargic, I would choose something that is more activating. So maybe something like, I mean, again, breath work could work for that, but maybe something more like hypnotherapy there or time techniques there.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so good that you've got so many different options
Yeah.
to do different things.
Well, and that's the other thing, you see, because I tend to work with people for longer stretches of time. So I don't really do one-off intensives that often anymore. I usually will work with people for a year and we'll have a session or 2 sessions every month. And so I kind of like that there are so many different things that we can pick and choose from. So like it's not just like the same old thing each time. Like we're always doing something completely different. And I kind of
Yeah,
love that.
I love that. That's one of my goals. Like I want to get trained in EFT, breathwork, hypnotherapy, mainly because they're the three that have made the biggest impact on me. So they're all on my like to be certified list. All
Well,
things.
on my like dream list is to create a certification for all of the things that I do. And because I've obviously like done certifications, but I've also tweaked things and honed things and like shaken things up, because there are definite, let's say, flaws in the way that I was taught some things, not everything, but there were some things that I just like didn't necessarily agree with or could see a better way of doing.
Yeah.
And so I want to do my own certification where I like blend together all of these different weird and wild modalities.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. Put me on the wait list. I want to learn
It's
it.
very much it's very much like it's on the someday list. It's yeah.
Okay, well, you've put it out into the universe now. It's got to happen.
Uh-huh. Well, and like like once you've said it out loud, it has to happen. So
That's why we've talked so much about our retreat. As soon as we had that first conversation, no, I think it was the second conversation we had about it, actually, wasn't it? It was like, okay, let's say it out loud now, and then it's gonna happen. And then we had some interest, and it's like, okay, well, it's happening now. It's gonna happen. It's exciting. So I wanted to talk to you about something that we have discussed privately, and that being about the recent spiritual awakening that you had a couple of months ago. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit more, like in a little bit more detail about that. Can you tell us what actually happened, how it happened, and what has been happening for you since the moment that you kind of realized that it was like a spiritual awakening?
yeah. So I would say that like the most recent one was probably my third spiritual awakening.
Oh my God, wow. I wonder if
Um,
I've ever had one and I just don't know what they are.
well, so the way I see a spiritual awakening is really just like it's like waking up, or it's like opening up to something new. So if you've already like opened up to like some spiritual concepts and practices, then I would say you've had a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I reckon so. I must have
Because at some point you have decided you believe in these things, you trust these
done.
things, you want to try these things.
Yeah. Okay. I've had multiple
You've had
things.
one. Well, okay, so I'll give you the abbreviated version then, because otherwise we're going to be condensing like 31 years into a couple of minutes. But when I was younger, I want to say like 12, 13, I was very into witchy stuff. Like all kinds of witchy stuff. Like I loved witchy books. I loved like TV shows like Charmed and Buffy the Vampire Slayer were my absolute jam. Loved it. Like loved the whole vibe. And it wasn't just like fictional witchy stuff that I was into. I was really into like reading historical accounts, and there were a lot of like Wicca guides around at the time, because in the 90s and noughties that was like a huge trend, and so I would read a lot of that type of book, and it just felt like a path that I wanted to be on. Like that just felt so right for me. But then at some point I just closed down the doors, because I had a very, let's say, challenging home life, especially in my teenage years, and it wasn't particularly safe for me to even have an opinion, let alone be a bit weird. So I just slammed the door on that part of me. And I just like, I mean, I still watched Buffy, I still watched Charmed, but I didn't really like live any of those practices that I started opening up to. And then obviously, like, fast forward many, many years, and I really got into the online coaching world and really started tapping back into like spiritual concepts and personal development. And that was when I would say I had my like second awakening, when I started learning about things like manifestation and like different rituals and all of the kind of things that we probably don't even consider to be like witchy or magical, because they're just um mindset practices that people talk about now. They're personal development tools, but actually like the roots are in sort of the more, let's say, magical realms. And that was something that I was very comfortable with. So I would like, I can read cards for people, I would do that, I would have my crystals around, like I would like all of that stuff. And then recently, I want to say like over the past month or so, it's like something just happened, and that door that I slammed shut when I was a teenager, it's like someone kicked it in, and suddenly I'm having all of these memories come back to me of, you know, things that I read at that time, things that I was learning, things that I was practicing, and it's just made me feel more like me again. And that's not to say that I'm like sat here in my witch's hat riding my broomstick, like that's not the vibe at all, but it's more just remembering things that I used to know and that feel so familiar to me and feel right to me. And with the kicking in of the door, I've also like suddenly absorbed this new sense of confidence, because I think previously, even though I, you know, I would send a monthly tarot email where I'd do a little card reading, or occasionally like I'd share crystal grids on my Instagram stories, things I would do like bits and pieces. I didn't really let myself go like full witch, full weird in my business. It was like a fun little quirk of my personality, but it wasn't who I was in a professional sense. And I think since the most recent awakening, I've really let myself blend and just be all of who I am. And yes, sometimes that is witchy and weird. It is also sometimes very like ballsy and direct and strategic. Like both parts are parts of me. And I've just realized that I don't have to pick one.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love the whole idea of, as you say, like having the two different parts of yourself. And I think we all have so many different parts to ourselves. Like I have the badass, confident, don't give a fuck side of me. But then I also have the like quiet, the anxious, the overthinker part of me. And I have the side of me that's very like quiet and connected and confident within myself without needing to be loud. But then I also have the loud part and the spirit. And I think it's really lovely how you can kind of feel like you can show all those parts. And I think so many people are going to relate to that and relate to the different parts that you have when you show up and bring all those parts to, as you say, like your social media or in your conversations or in the work that you do.
Mm-hmm. And it's like anything else. We can have different parts rule the roost on different days. Like sometimes if I am feeling like super focused and organized, that will be like the full like strategic part of my brain coming out, and I will be creating the content plans, and I will be like, there'll be spreadsheets involved or there'll be PowerPoints involved, and I'll be like fully in that mode. And then there'll be other times where I'm just like, I'm just gonna lie in the middle of a circle of candles and this is my day today.
I like that. I yeah, I completely relate to that. And I think I think it's important that we accept all parts of ourselves, and we accept that, like, the strategic, the productive, the motivated part isn't going to be running the show all the time. And that's something that I am creating more awareness around at the moment, because it's something that I do struggle with. Like when that part of me comes out, I love it because I feel like I'm being successful because I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do. But then when that part's like, okay, had my time done now, and the part that just wants to lay in bed and watch Netflix comes out, it's very hard to be like, but I want you to come back because you are making me feel successful, and this new part's making me feel lazy. And I think accepting all parts of those is really, that really important.
Yeah, and I think something else to remember is that people are perceptive. So if you are ashamed of a part of yourself, if you are, even if it's unconsciously you're trying to conceal a part of yourself, people can feel that when you then show up online and are trying to market your business, people can feel that there's something missing. They can feel that something's a bit off, even if they don't know what it is and they can't put their finger on it.
Yeah.
They'll just notice that something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
And so when you're showing up like that, you're not going to be getting the same sort of connection and conversion that you would if you were willing to be full you. And like chances are you would say exactly the same thing regardless. It's not the words, but energetically it wouldn't feel like there was something being stomped on.
Yeah. That makes total sense. I think my thing is because I overthink so much. I've tried not to call myself an overthinker. I'm trying to call myself a deep thinker, because I feel like there are two differences. And I am a very deep thinker. I think I worry because I have these moments where I show up like now, like I'm so full of energy and I'm bubbly and I'm loud and I'm like, I feel really like vibrant in what I'm doing, and I show up like that on social media sometimes. But then sometimes I don't want to show up like that because I'm not feeling like that, and then I worry like, oh, are people going to be think that I'm fake because I'm in a moment where I'm like calm and quiet and maybe feeling a little bit shy. And that's just my like overthinking brain thinking that people will judge me in a certain way.
I mean, it's entirely possible that they might just think you're a human person who is not one thing
I know.
24/7.
I know. This is what my brain, this is very much something that we work on consistently. This like perception of other people. But yeah, I think that's
Well, oh, the dog says hi. It's like he knew that I was just about to bring Jasper up and Casper started barking.
oh.
Boy. So if you think about Jasper,
Mhm.
sometimes he'll be like, give me all the love, like throw me a ball, give me lots of attention. Sometimes he'll be like, I need to go to sleep in the corner. Sometimes it'll be like, can I go for a walk now?
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be like, feed me, bitch.
Yeah.
Like he'll have all of these different ways of being. You don't ever look at him and think like, you're such a bad dog. Like why do you want to play now? But like why do you want to sleep then? That's so inconsistent. What a fake flaky dog. Like you just don't think like that.
No, absolutely not. I think it is like historically having been told that like people think I'm flaky, or like it's very much a like what I've been told when I was younger, and that's kind of stuck in my brain, and then it's just working through those patterns and rewriting those kind of thoughts.
So what's flaky?
I,
Define flaky.
do you know what? I'm not even sure, to be honest. I see it as not not sticking to what you're saying. So it stems from me having really bad anxiety years ago, to the point where I couldn't leave the house. So I'd make plans to go out with people, and then I'd be like, cancel on the day because I just physically couldn't go. And then I'd always be told like, oh, like people are going to think you're flaky, like no one's going to ask you to go out anymore, like it's bad for you, like it's not fair on your friends to let them down, kind of thing. So it's always been like a really negative thing for me.
So flaky means like listening to your body.
Ooh, yeah, I guess so. Oh my God. Yeah, because even in the sense of like social media, like if I'm not consistent on social media, I mean, this is something that I'm working, as I said, like working through, but like not being consistent on social media means I'm being flaky on social media. When in actual fact, no, I'm not consistent on social media because I value myself and my health more than I value what goes up on my Instagram. So flaky is not a negative thing.
Let's all be flakier.
Yes, here's to a future of flakes.
And like, here's another like perspective shift I want to share with you here. When you feel good and when you feel energized, you show up on social media.
Yeah, always.
Exactly. That's consistent.
Mm.
Consistency is doing something when a certain set of circumstances are the way you want them. So if you feel happy and energized and calm and confident and inspired, you show up on social media. Consistent doesn't mean you are there 24/7 regardless of what's going on.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think we kind of get a little bit lost in that, don't we? Because that's what everybody talks about, like being consistent, as in like being on social media every day or selling every day.
And it's very rare that someone will stop and ask, like, but what is consistent? What does consistent mean? Because consistent can mean 5 times a day, every day. Consistent can mean once every other day. Consistent can mean just when you're on holiday. Consistent can mean 101 different things, 1,001 different things.
Yeah. So true. I've decided that in the whole, like I've been redefining my version of success at the moment. Is something that I've been doing for myself, and it's something that I did a podcast episode about, like how to define or like how to create your own definition of success. And I realized that consistency, or what I perceive consistency to be, was part of what made me feel successful, or was what I told myself success was. And now I'm like, that doesn't fit in with my definition of success anymore. Like being consistent, as in showing up on social media every day, as in selling every day, that doesn't fit with my definition of success anymore.
So I'm about to say something a little bit controversial.
Dun dun dun.
But I think consistency is largely an ego metric.
Yes.
Because you've just hit on it. We feel proud of ourselves for being consistent, because it means we're a good business owner, because it means we're doing things right, because it means we're like showing up and being a like A-star student.
Yeah.
And people will see us and they'll be like, look how successful she is. She's so consistent.
Mm-hmm. It's an ego thing. I literally just wrote a post about, I wrote the post a few nights ago when I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I got it scheduled to go out on my socials tomorrow. And tomorrow being the 7th of September, because we're recording this in advance. But that's exactly what I wrote about. Yeah. This whole, like, you think that, or like you praise yourself for being consistent because everyone tells you that that's what you need to be successful. But
and there's a big difference between being consistent because that's what you personally enjoy and that's what inspires you, because some people get inspired by creating.
mm-hmm.
So if they're creating consistently, they're getting inspired consistently, and so it has like a really positive effect on them, and that's one thing. But if you're being consistent because you think that it will impact how other people see you and it will give you that validation that you're lacking, that's when it's something to look at.
Yeah. Moving on. You've shared before about your partner, Tom, and said that he's also kind of into some of the spiritual practices that you are. And he was known as Yoga Tom when you first met him. I don't know if he's still known as that, or he was known as that when you first met him. And I'm pretty sure he came to a breathwork class, didn't he? Has he been to the breathwork classes we've done?
Yeah, he came to a breathwork class with Marie.
Yes, so I thought I'd seen him there. Can you talk a little bit about how different it is being in a relationship with someone who not only accepts your spiritual practices and your kind of witchy woo-ness, but also likes to do those practices with you? Because it's something that I very much aspire to have in my next partner. I very much love this whole idea of us doing these kind of things together. So can you talk a little bit about kind of the difference it is being in a relationship like that?
Yeah, so the first thing that I want to say is there is a difference between somebody who does those things independently, like outside of your relationship, and somebody who's just supportive of those things. Because I feel like I want to mention here that my ex was very supportive of anything that I wanted to do. Like, he didn't, you know, laugh at me, he didn't dismiss me, didn't think anything was weird. Like, he would go to spiritual events with me, he had like his birth chart reading, he was very much like a scientific thinker and wasn't really into it, but he was supportive, and that was enough for me. Like, I just didn't want somebody to be silencing me, to be dismissing my beliefs and all of that stuff. So I don't necessarily think that you need to go and find somebody who's like a wizard. I don't think that's necessary. And because also people do grow and evolve and develop, like, we know this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I saw happen with my previous partner. So I don't want anyone to be going out there and just discounting great people just because they don't tick some of these boxes.
Absolutely.
I think the most important thing is that you find someone that's open-minded and willing to try things.
Yeah, maybe that's the way that I needed to reframe it, because I feel like I would always, even when I'd get into meditation or like EFT and stuff, I always felt a little bit worried of judgment. And maybe that wasn't my ex being like that. It was just my perception of how he might take it. So maybe that is just something that, yeah, I need to think about more, not looking for someone that does the spiritual stuff, but looking at someone that is open-minded and makes me feel safe in that environment to share all parts of me.
Yeah. And so, well, with Tom, we actually met at a spiritual event.
Oh, lovely.
So my auntie, like pre-pandemic, she used to put on like these sort of like spiritual fairs in Yorkshire. And the first time she did that, I went up and helped out just to be supportive. In fact, I went to each one that she did. And Tom used to go to her weekly yoga class that she went to, and that's how we were introduced. And the first time we met, I like didn't really, I mean, I thought he was handsome, but he was there with a girl, so I assumed that was his girlfriend. I was engaged at the time. Like, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It was just like a sort of like, oh, hi, nice to meet you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, the girl was actually his cousin, but that's like different story for a different time. And then like the next year I went back to the event, and at that time my relationship with my ex had sort of broken down, and we got talking. And again, it wasn't like an instant like you're my soulmate kind of thing. We got on and we had things to talk about. And I think like that's really important when you're building a new relationship, having things in common but also things that are different.
Yeah.
And he was like a way better meditator than me. He would like meditate every day. That's never been me. I've never been a daily meditator. And he had his own practices that kept him feeling grounded and kept him feeling good. And he was definitely open to learning things and like talking to, I mean, at that event, he's that person who would go around and have like a 40-minute conversation with every single stall holder. Whereas I'm like the one who just like walks around not making eye contact because I don't want anyone to make small talk with me. And yeah, it was really like different for me being with somebody who wasn't just expecting to learn from me, but had his own stuff to bring to the conversation. Like, that was really refreshing. But just because we both have, you know, this spiritual curiosity and openness doesn't mean that we are always perfect at those things. Doesn't mean that we don't have struggles with those things. I mean, I know when we went into the first lockdown, Tom, let's say, reacted badly.
Yeah.
And it was probably, I would say, about 2 years that I couldn't really stand to be around him that much. Like, he was quite annoying.
That's a very long time.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it wasn't quite that long, but it was a decent amount of time. Yeah. In fact, no, it was that long. So it was about April to April of this year.
Yeah.
And I found him really challenging to be around. And he sort of stopped doing all of his usual spiritual practices. He stopped meditating. He stopped going to yoga. People still call him Yoga Tom, but he didn't actually do the yoga piece. And he, as a consequence, had a lot of negative stuff going on for him personally. Like a lot of his old patterns came back, like a lot of his old struggles came back. He lost a lot of confidence. He, like, so much stuff happens there. But what we've noticed, and we had to have like many honest conversations about this, because I said, like, when we got together, I was under the impression that this is who you were, this is the kind of person that you were, this is what you valued, this is where you saw your life going, and I'm not getting that.
Yeah,
And that was a horrible conversation to have.
absolutely.
But he was like, you're not wrong. And he went away fishing and had to think about it, and then he came back, and since then things have really started shifting, and we've started making it a priority to do things together, because, like I said before, that it's important to have like your sort of independent avenues of curiosity, but it's also amazing to do things together. So things like bringing him to breathwork sessions, or doing new moon rituals together, or like any like little bits and bobs here and there. Sometimes we'll meditate together. It just reconnects you in a different way. And there's like something really sexy about being like spiritually connected to somebody.
Yes. Oh my God. That's kind of that's what I want. That's what I'm aiming for. Does he have any like single friends? I
Yeah,
can't believe I
he
just
does.
started that.
He does have single friends. I'm not I'll have to check and see if he has any single spiritual friends.
Okay.
But honestly, like my biggest piece of advice would be find events to go to. So, you know, things like well-being fairs and little like
Yeah.
local retreats and stuff like that, because you just never know who you're gonna meet.
No, that's so true. I think as well, like a big part for me is what you were saying about doing things together. Like quality time is one of my top love languages. So things like that are really, really important to me. Not, it doesn't have to be the spiritual stuff, but just like spending time together and having those open, honest conversations. Like I've never been in a relationship, and this isn't necessarily the fault of the other person. This is sometimes partly to do with my own history and stuff that I've been through. But I've never been in a relationship where I felt fully safe to be able to express my feelings without having the fear that they're going to leave me. So anytime I've like needed to be really honest with how I am, it's always come with this like massive feeling of like they're going to leave me, I'm not good enough, I can't speak up about this. um and I don't want that for my next relationship. I want to be able to have those tough conversations, because I do think it's unrealistic to expect to have a relationship where you never have tough conversations, but I want to be able to have those tough conversations in that safe way like you both did.
So something that I think has really helped us over the course of our relationship is way back when I was still with my ex, I was working with a coach, and she had me do this exercise. So she was like, what do you even want in your relationship? Because you're kind of unclear. And she made me sit down and just write out exactly what I wanted from my relationship. So what I wanted like our vision to be, what I wanted our values to be, the qualities that I needed, the things that I wanted from somebody, the things that I wanted somebody to do for themselves, like all of that stuff. And it ended up being like 3 or 4 pages long. There was a lot of stuff on there. And I kept it in a journal, and obviously like that relationship didn't pan out. Not anyone's fault. We just sort of were, you know, not really compatible anymore. I think sometimes that just happens. But then when I like met and was getting to know Tom, he came to visit one day, and this is like this was when we were still friends. This is before we even entertained the conversation about getting together. I pulled that journal off my shelf. In fact, no, I didn't. It fell off my bookshelf when he sat down on the couch, and I was like, is that my ghost sending a message? Because my house does have a ghost.
That just gave me
And
goose.
I picked up my journal, pulled out those pages, and I was like, I'm going to read this to you. And so I just read out exactly what I was demanding from my next relationship.
Wow.
And then I said, like, I'm only going to entertain a relationship that fulfills all of these needs. And
Oh,
he was like, Noted.
And here you are.
Yeah.
I love.
But we both still remember things from that list. Like occasionally, like he'll say something like, well, oh, and I know that one of your things was this, so I was thinking that.
Oh, that's so thoughtful. That's
And
sweet.
honestly, like that there is such a gift to the other person, giving them clarity. Like when you can actually explain to somebody what you want and need from a relationship, it makes it so much easier for them to fulfill it, because they don't have to keep guessing. Like they don't have to be sort of like watching your behavior and trying to gauge what that's supposed to mean, because I think we're all guilty of that. We just expect people to know, and it's like, well, can't you see, can't you intuit what's going on?
Why didn't
And
you
like
read my mind that I wanted to go for dinner tonight?
like can't you take a hint? Well, no, often they can't. So being explicit can be really, really helpful, and it's helpful to hear it back as well, because we don't always know. And like even with the love language thing, like we love and receive, sorry, we give and receive love in very different ways to other people. And so having these conversations where like your prospective partner can also say, this is what I would really want in a relationship, this is how I see my life going, these are the qualities that I really value, it then allows you to think, can I be that for somebody? If not, see you later. If yes, remember that and like keep coming back to that. And whenever you have struggles in your relationship, like come back to those lists and think, am I able to show up as this person for them? Are they able to show up as that person for me?
I think that's such a great exercise to do. I feel like I
We've
wanted.
gone in such a weird direction here.
I know this is not what we planned, but that's fine. It's made me want to do another one of these lists. I feel like I accidentally manifested my last breakup, even though it was completely unexpected, because like a year before I sat down and wrote a list of everything that I wanted, and I mean he obviously wasn't it, and now that's that. Moving swiftly on. um One of the things that you did recently was like I suppose a spiritual practice or like a witchy thing, and you did an Instagram live where you showed us how to create a money jar, and I bloody loved doing this exercise. I literally did it as soon as you finished the live. I went and got all the things, and it was so much fun to me because I am creative. I like to do different things like that. And 2 days after I made my jar, I found a £10 note on the floor when I was walking to the park. So it did work. And I shake it every day now. I've got it next to my bed and I'll give it a little shake every day.
I've got mine here.
Oh, you've got it there. I've got mine upstairs next to my bed. But it was so much fun. And anyone listening, I would really encourage you to go to Daire's profile and watch it. It was a video on Instagram all about creating
I pinned it to the top of my profile, so
perfect.
You'll find it easily.
Amazing. And when I was watching the video, I was really amazed at all the knowledge you had. Now, I know we've talked a lot about you do a lot of reading, you do a lot of learning, but you had so much knowledge about things like the different herbs to use, the different crystals to use and their meanings, and the way that you kind of put everything together. Where does that knowledge predominantly come from? Is it just because you've done so much reading? Is it intuitive? Have you watched videos? Do you follow certain people? Like where did you accumulate all that?
I think there's a real mixture there. So some things I've learned from reading books, some things I've learned from watching YouTube channels, some things I've like heard come up in conversation. So if you're just having a chat with somebody, if you are overhearing someone at a witchy event, if you are maybe on a group call with Marie, sometimes she'll say things, or like other practitioners I've worked with. And then there'll be things like, let me see if I've got one here. So I've got these like aura sprays. Just holding that up for the camera, even though this is the podcast. But this one that I'm holding right here is like a root chakra spray, right? And on the bottle it says strength and grounding. So immediately that's something I'm going to remember, that the root chakra is all about strength and grounding. And then on the back it's got the ingredients in. So it says like, oh, this has got ylang ylang in, this has got that in, this has got that. And I'll remember those things. And because these are like the little spray bottles and essentials that I'll have lying around, I just remember like, oh, like this herb is good for that.
Nice.
And I just feel like you absorb knowledge from different places. But something that I really recommend doing when you are sort of immersing yourself in, well, any kind of practice really, but we're talking about witchy weird spiritual practices today, is to have a book that's dedicated to that. So have a journal, have a binder, have something that is dedicated to what you're learning there. And I call mine my book of shadows, but you can call it whatever you want. It can just be a journal, and that's where you keep your information. So maybe if you watch my ritual video about creating your money jar, maybe you'll write down the steps in there so you can refer back to it at a later date. Maybe if you notice that you've got some packets of incense that have different scents on, and it says on the back like, oh, lavender is good for calming, eucalyptus is good for energy, like whatever, maybe you note those down in your binder. Maybe you find like a recipe for like a cool witchy tea and you write that down. Maybe you like read a book and it has a breakdown of like what to do to balance each of your chakras, like whatever it is, like keep it in this book, and then you can refer back to it easily. So all of this information that you're picking up, whether it is from some like silly Instagram meme, or it's like a serious book, or it's from working one-on-one with a coach, keep that information somewhere and refer back to it and use it and consider it like a living, breathing document that you keep dipping into and embodying and working with.
I love that. That's such a good idea. I would never think to do that. Although I did write down your your steps for creating the money jar. I wrote those in my journal because I was like, I want to do this as soon as I get off. But that's so good. Now I need to get a new journal.
Well, like any excuse to get a new journal. But what I also love doing in mine is I will then write down what happens.
Ooh.
So if I like have a little space for like a ritual that I'm trying or something like that, I'll always make sure there's like maybe a blank page next to it where I can keep track of the results. And I can keep track of maybe things that I want to change next time.
Such a good idea. So good. Where did you get your chakra sprays from?
They just came from a little stand at one of those witchy fairs. Okay. But you can get them online. You can even get some from Boots these days. But honestly, like different essential oil sprays and roll-ons, I love them. I also have like a drawer full of supplies to make my own.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
I do.
I've got a couple. I've got like a what have I got? I've got a menthol one, like it's peppermint. Is it eucalyptus as well? Something for migraines. I've got one of those. And I've got a calming one. And then I've just got a lavender one on its own. But I like to use them before I go to bed.
Yeah.
Just
so I have different ones that I use for different reasons. So I've got a roller blend one that I use that's for sort of unleashing your voice. So whenever I do something like this, I'll put some of that on.
Nice.
It really feels like it just like clears something, and then I get extra unfiltered.
Is that what you were putting on before? Yeah. Oh, I remember seeing you do that.
Yeah, I was putting on my Use Your Voice one, and then I've also made a blend that's to go in a diffuser that I call like the DIY Muse blend. And whenever I put that on, I am so creative. And it doesn't matter how stuck I am. And it smells kind of like cinnamony and Christmassy. It's really, really nice. But I'll put it in my diffuser next to my desk, and that's like go time. That's when I create so much stuff so quickly.
I love that. I like to light candles, although I don't really have any at the moment. I need to get some more, but that's always fun. And I use I suppose similar, like the Bach's flower remedies. So I use like rescue remedy for anxiety. I had such bad anxiety on Sunday. I must have taken like half a bottle with the spray stuff. But there's also, I bought a set of 3, and they've got 3 different ones. One is for confidence. So if I know that I've got a day where I need to be really like on it, or I need to feel really good about myself, I'll just put some confidence stuff in the water. and drink that. And then there's one for like recurring negative thoughts. That one I use quite a bit as well. And I can't remember what the third one is because I've not used that one, because it's obviously something I'm not that fussed about. But I like using those as well. Like similar to the kind of smells, it's that like little practice that you have to kind of, again, like anchor back yourself.
My auntie actually makes essences like that.
Oh,
So
really?
I've got a little pouch with some of hers in here. So she has like these different essences that she does that you can use for different things.
Nice.
And they're amazing. But all of these things, like, they count as spiritual witchy practices. They're you using your senses and using, you know, natural products, like for different flowers, different herbs, to create a specific result.
Yeah, that's so true. Same with like teas. Like I'll drink certain teas if I need, like I've got a calming tea, I've got like the inner peace one, I have chamomile if my stomach's feeling funny or if I need to sleep, or so true. I think they're all really nice practices that we can use.
See, like, you're a secret witch. Like, you don't
Oh, I
realize that
am.
you're a secret witch.
I even created a wand for myself when I was at school.
There you go.
Different kind of witch, but yes, I love it. Right, okay, before we wrap things up, because we're going to have to finish in a minute, but I just wanted to cover this quickly. Well, if we can cover it quickly. I know that birth chart readings are something that you have recently introduced as a service into your business, and it's something that I have on my list of things to invest in. But can you talk a little bit more about what our birth charts can tell us and how to take what you know from your birth chart and put it into like actual practice? So, for example, how can you use your birth chart to live a more successful or like a more fulfilled life?
Oh my goodness. So I've got 2 minutes to talk about this. Great.
Maybe 4. Give you 4.
So there is so much that your birth chart can tell you, but what I want to make really, really clear is that it is not about putting you in a box. This is not about defining you. It's about giving you insight into how to get what you want. And I want that distinction to be very, very clear, because I think when a lot of people think about astrology or any other sort of personality typing system, is they think that that means that they're only one thing and they can't change and that they're stuck and that that's it. And that is not the case with astrology. So when you look at somebody's chart, there is so much information in there. But we are largely, as a society, only familiar with the sun sign, the star sign. Like, that is one. But that is one teeny tiny piece of your chart. And so when you like read your horoscope and you're like, that doesn't sound like me, it's because it's not factoring in all of the other like 105 things in your chart, which all have an influence. And so, because we're short on time, like, I can't give you like too many tips here, but one thing that I want to draw your attention to that can really support you in your business and in your life is the section of your chart that is the 12 houses. So the 12 houses are kind of like geographical areas where, like, in the sky, that like planets and signs would be in them at the moment of your birth, basically. And each one of these houses represents a different thing. So for example, the first house is all about your identity and how you're perceived. The second house is all about making money. The third house is all about communication. The fourth house is all about like home and family. So they're governed by these themes. So paying attention to what sign is in each of those houses can be a really practical way to start using your chart. Because let's say you have Gemini in your second house. So that is the sign of Gemini in the house that is all about making money. So you know that Gemini season, which is the 22nd of May, 21st of May, 22nd of May till the 21st or 22nd of June, that is when you're really going to be motivated to work on money, because that's really when like that second house is going to be present for you. So that might mean you're having extra struggles with money, or it might mean that money is coming really easy to you, but that's when things relating to money are really going to crop up. So when you can look at your whole like series of houses, you can see what you're going to be challenged by at different points throughout the year, and you can plan for that. Wow. So if you know that money is going to be a challenge at a particular time, you can make sure that you're, implementing habits or getting support in that area. If you know that maybe let's say your like family life is going to be a priority at a certain time of year, you can make sure then that you're not planning a big launch in that time, so you can focus on family life.
That's so fascinating. Now I'm like, okay, let me go and find out my money house so that I can work out what's going on. I love that so much. Maybe you'll have to come back and do a third one all about birth charts and astrology.
I mean, there's so much there, and like I think one thing that about the way that I do birth charts is they are like pretty in depth. So I usually do about 30 pages of stuff for people with like journal prompts and other support to help them really like implement and integrate things, because there is a lot of information and so much of it can be used in really, really practical ways. And I think that's the important piece here. So we want things to be like fun and magical, but we also want things to be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we do. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Confidence Show again. Can you just remind everyone where they can find you if they haven't listened to the other episode yet?
Of course. So you can find me on Instagram at Daire Paddy, where you will find my money jar tutorial. So definitely go check that out. I also have a podcast, Your Biz Your Rules, which is available in all of the usual places, iTunes, Spotify, and the like. And I have a YouTube channel, which again is just my name, Daire Paddy, where I release a weekly tapping video. So I know we mentioned EFT tapping earlier on in the show. If you want to have a little go with that, then there are loads of free videos up for you on the channel.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And don't forget that in January 2023, we'll be running our very first self-first retreat. For more information, you can visit the link in the show notes or go to rebeccaluch.co/retreat. And all the info will be there. And we would obviously love to see you there. Spaces are limited, so you can't all come, but we would love to see you there if you feel called to join. Thanks so much for being a guest again, Daire, and I'll see you in the next one.